My name is Cheria, and for a living, I turn workplaces into growth spaces. This podcast is a front row seat into my own personal and professional development as I talk with inspiring people about the growth that takes place at the intersection of work and life. Welcome to Grow There with Cheria. Welcome to season 3 of Grow There with Cheria. Wow, I cannot believe that we are on season 3. This actually marks a year of us doing this podcast, and I am so grateful to all of you who are listening in, who are following along, who reach out to me. You email, you text, you call, and you tell me what you love about the podcast, what episodes you love, what guests you loved. I mean, seriously, I think still to this day, my mom gets the most love from all of you all of the time. But I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this. And I actually want to take a quick second to thank Dylan Hopewell, who is my producer of this podcast. You are such a joy. I'm so grateful that you came into my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So here we go, y'all. It's time to jump in. And as I was thinking about this season, I was reflecting on the month of September. I love September. Have you ever heard that there's this question that you can ask someone and they'll always know the answer for it intuitively? And the question is, what day of the week are you? In other words, your personality. What day of the week best represents your personality? I am a Monday girl. Like I am when I was a kid in school, like I was ready to go to school. I'm ready to go to work on Monday. That's how I am. And I think of September as giving Monday energy. And for me, it's also this beautiful time of an ending and a beginning. It's also my birthday month. So, of course, I'm partial to the month of September. But when you think about it, September really has these endings and beginnings. It's the end of summer and the beginning of fall. When you were a kid, it was the end of your playtime and your freedom and the beginning of school and learning and being with your friends again. For me, because it's my birthday month, it's the end of one year and the beginning of another. And believe it or not, naturally, with all 4 seasons, we have these moments, these months that hold our endings and beginnings. And as I thought about the conversation that you're about to listen to, it really made me think that we have these endings that sometimes can be painful. Oftentimes they're painful. In fact, with all change comes grief. But from those endings, there are always beginnings. And you're going to understand more why that feels resonant to me after you listen to this conversation that we're going to be having today with Mita Mallick. Mita is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author. She is on a mission to fix what's broken in our workplaces, and it feels so special to be chatting with her because obviously we have a similar passion. She is a corporate changemaker with a track record for transforming businesses. She's a highly sought after speaker who has advised Fortune 500 companies and startups alike. She's a LinkedIn top voice, a contributor to Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, Adweek, and Entrepreneur. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest. So let's get started. It's time to grow there with Mita Mallick. Okay, Mita, it's so great to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We know so many people in common, so I'm
Oh my
excited to have this
gosh,
conversation with you today. Thank you.
that's always the best. Just being able to have people bringing people together
Yeah.
is just one of my favorite things. And I feel so honored to have you on. I think you have been cultivating such important conversations in our culture for so long now. And your first book did so amazing. And I'm so excited to talk about your second book. But you know why we're here. And ultimately, every episode starts out with us learning a story from you about a time when you came to this intersection of work and life. And I'm interested in looking at people's growth stories and how sometimes their personal life impacts their professional life and their professional
Sure.
life impacts their personal life. So I'd love to get out of the way and just ask you to share with us a story when one of those things happened and you found yourself at this intersection, which ultimately led to growth.
Mm. Well, I appreciate you starting off by talking about the impact I've had on culture and conversations, particularly in the workplace. That wasn't always who I was, and
Yeah.
that's part of the growth story. I talk about this in my new book, The Double Emails at Midnight: What Good Leaders Can Learn from Bad Bosses. I talk about when I went from being a good leader to a terrible leader, and it's when I lost my dad suddenly in 2017. And so there's what's happened in the workplace, which we can get to and talk about,
Yeah.
but there's nothing like losing someone suddenly you love, whether it's suddenly or you knew it was going to happen, although you're never prepared for those things,
Yeah.
to reassess your life and think about all the dreams that you held on to that you weren't doing anything about, all the things you were waiting to do, particularly knowing that I could not be here tomorrow,
Yeah.
or you could not be here tomorrow, or someone that we care about. And so I can't, unless you've gone through it, it's hard to describe, but your life then becomes marked with like life before dad and life after dad. And
Yeah.
then you start to think about all the things that you want to do that you've been waiting to do and why. And so part of it, when you talk about my contributing to what's happening in our workplaces and speaking up about it, growth, I just thought, what am I waiting for? And so
Mm.
part of that grieving was actually finding myself going back to writing and writing again. And so I'm sitting here with book 2 about to be published and, missing my dad and wishing he was here. I
Yeah.
know that my mom's still here with us. I know that he's seeing all this from another place and time, but
Yeah.
that's tough. But that's where
Yeah.
there was a lot of growth from the grief, which I didn't expect.
Yeah. I'd love for you to share more about that if you're open, because what's interesting is, I've been doing this podcast for going on the third season, and it really is all about this growth that takes place at the intersection of work and life. And my hypothesis is essentially that we often bifurcate those things, and for good reasons in many
Yeah.
ways. But at the same time, whenever I talk to people about the times when they pull out their highest and best self, often it's at this intersection. And I'm just really intrigued by what are truly stories of resilience
Mm,
that come out of this podcast. And what is interesting is that I need to go back and actually do the math, but I think the most common theme of a transformative experience is death.
mm,
Like, we talk about death a lot on this podcast because when dealing with that kind of loss, in
mhm.
fact, one of my friends who was on the podcast is a death doula. So we've really gotten into this. And I think to do the kind of work that you're doing, and I also work in the culture space. I'm a culture consultant.
Sure.
You're really giving a lot of yourself to that work.
Right.
And I think when you have what I've learned through this podcast is when you've grown through grief, what you give of yourself is even more rooted in a sense. And so, anyways, that's a lot to say. I'd love for you to tell me more
Well, your friend must
about,
be an angel on earth to do that work. That
yeah,
takes a very special kind of person. Until you lose someone you love, you don't realize that time is finite.
yeah,
We know that, but it's death is coming for all of us. We don't wanna talk about it.
yeah,
And so you're waiting to write that book, you're waiting to start that podcast, you're waiting to ask that person out, you're waiting to start a business, you're waiting, 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 and then life is gone. And
yeah,
so, a phone call from my mom changed my life
yeah,
forever, as it did for my brother and other family members. And so, what happens is really interesting. And Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant talk about this in Option B, which I had read, is that you and Sheryl Sandberg had lost her husband suddenly as well. And you actually lose your sense of self confidence and sense of
mm,
because everything you knew to be true is no longer true. And so I
mm,
had been on this trajectory where I had gained confidence, was speaking up at work, was growing in my career, was advancing. And then all of a sudden I lose my dad and you find yourself
mm,
retreating back to old behaviors. Like I want to sit in the back of the meeting. I don't want to speak up. I don't want to engage. I'm afraid that people might judge what I say. My
mm,
ideas are stupid. I'm not contributing any value, but I think that's because everything you knew to be true is no longer true. And then
Yeah.
as you grieve and heal and you go through this process, you start to think about all the things that would make that person proud, at least in the case of my dad, and all the dreams that I had deferred, which was one of being a writer. And you start to, at least for me, writing is healing. And so
Mhm.
out of that, I went back to my mom used to always say that she still says, like, ever since I could pick up a crayon, I wanted to write. Like, I always wanted to be a writer, but a lot of people had told me I shouldn't do that or couldn't do that, or my writing wasn't good. And so I had lost it along the way. But
Yeah.
being able to process how I was feeling about my dad's death and then actually start writing, keep writing, and then start writing about other things really helped me.
Yeah.
Helped
T
me a
can
lot.
you tell me more about how you use the phraseology "growing through grief," which I think is great and could be a book if it's not already. Can you tell me how you did that? Like, how you allowed yourself to grieve and also grow?
I'm still doing that. I
Yeah.
don't think it ends. The
Yeah.
journey of grief is such a long journey. I have a friend who just lost her mother really recently, and every time I have a friend who loses a loved one, the grief shows up for me again. I'm grieving with them.
Yeah.
And it hits in waves now. It's not every day. Every day I'm thinking about it. Every day that I'm physically showing the manifestation of grieving, which might be
Yeah.
crying, sobbing, breaking down. But there are things throughout the day, or like weeks or months have gone by, and suddenly memory triggers, and you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
gosh, here we are. Here I am again grieving." I think it's an expression of how much we love the person too in many ways, right? When we're
Yeah.
thinking about them and grieving. So I don't think that ever stops.
Yeah.
I just think for me, it's this question of what are we waiting for in our lives?
Mhm.
Like, what are we waiting for? Who are we waiting to give us permission? Are we waiting for ourselves? Because at
Yeah.
some point, the wait is over. And that's
Yeah.
what I think, that's what grief certainly teaches you. And then also, I've lost my dad. And so if what do I care if someone doesn't like my post on LinkedIn? I've
Mhm.
been through one of
Yeah.
the worst things that can happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've been through one of the worst things that can happen. So then it's like all these other things that we put so much emotion
Yeah.
behind and we hold so closely to ourselves. When I coach people on building their social media brand or posting on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, it's like the fear of other people's opinions. I'm like,
Mhm.
try it. People are going to scroll
Yeah.
by and move on to their own thing. And when you've
Yeah.
gone through something that's traumatic and catastrophic, you see these things in a different lens.
Yeah.
That's where the growth comes from as well.
Yeah. It's interesting though to go from the loss of confidence in grief to then regaining it and it
Yeah.
being formed in a totally different way where it actually it's like you lose it all and then you go to the other end of the spectrum and then
Mhm.
you're like, screw it, I gotta live, like this
Exactly.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't, and I think I just think that's so powerful. And I grief, like I said, comes up so much in this podcast because there are so many things we're grieving. It's not
Yeah.
death is an enormous one that we can point our finger to
Or
and understand, but grieving divorce and grieving still traumas, childhood traumas, all these we're like living
friendships. I'm grieving a friendship for
friendships.
me.
Yes. Oh my
And
God.
the person's still alive, by the way. Sorry.
Yes. But
Like,
but
friendship's a
losing
loss of a friendship.
yes, losing a friend, losing all of those things, they weigh
Yeah.
so heavy, and I think we've talked about this before on the podcast. There's a guy who, talks about death and grief, and it's so funny because I did this last time. I said I gotta remember his name, and then I did remember his name and posted about him, and now I forgot his name again, but he talks about how grief is something that we often think about that we have to, you know, kind of get through it. But really, he says grief is a language we need to become fluent in. And I think I've written about
Mm.
how grief in the workplace is this unspoken thing that's
Yeah.
hanging all over the place that we haven't quite figured out how to make space for it
Mm.
in a way that feels authentic and also feels like our communities in our workplaces are actually all part of our healing process by nature of just being in our lives,
Absolutely.
so I just I am grateful that you have been growing through grief, and I know that I think to your point grief it's funny the other day I had this memory of my dad dancing as a kid, and I'm getting emotional right now that it felt like grief. It
Mm.
felt like I remember this time when my dad was so young and wild and free, and our family was so healthy and joyful, and and my parents ended up getting divorced later in life and all this, but in this
Sure.
moment, I
Mm.
registered that this beautiful memory also is grief, and I
Yeah.
made some space for it, and I thought, "I'm so grateful that I have this as part of my practice," but
Mm.
so
Yeah.
many of us are out there living without even being able to name things as grief
Sure.
and then live into it and grow from it, so
Yeah.
you're modeling the way with the way
I'm
that you're
trying. I'm
living your
still on
life.
my journey. I'm a work in progress, but
Listen, we all are.
the example you share is wonderful, that joy and grief can coexist, and
Yeah,
that we have to realize that, particularly today, right? And
yeah, yeah,
joyful to be here with you, and I'm sure there is, of course, something happening in the world that's
yeah,
horrible. People are being hurt and harmed, and
mhm,
that's unfortunately the reality we live in with joy and
yeah,
grief.
yeah, it really is. So okay. So the story that I'm hearing you tell is one of losing your dad and that really shifting your perspective and your kind of loss of confidence, stripping of confidence, and then the regaining of not only esteem but belief in yourself to go and do the thing that you always set out to do. And here you are doing that, and not only that, you're really having an impact in a way that certainly through my work, I appreciate so much,
Oh,
and I
thank
think I have to tell you, I'm really excited about your next book
oh,
because
thank you.
I the title alone is
Here we
just
go.
perfection. The Devil Emails at Midnight, What Good Leaders Can Learn from Bad Bosses is
Yes,
it's perfect.
thank
It's
you.
the perfect title. Usually after we talk about a story, I ask you to tell me about what is something that business leaders can take away from your personal story of this growth that took place at the intersection of work and life and integrate it into the workplace. But you have a whole slew now of books that are all about this. So
Sure.
I want to kind of just give you like open the floor, whether it's related to your book, which you just said that you share this story in this particular book.
Yeah.
But what is one of the main things that you want business leaders to learn that could transform their cultures if they changed that thing today or shifted their
Mm.
mentality today?
I've been a bad boss, and chances are so have you. And how
Mm,
many of us can say that out loud? I've been the person who has contributed to literature on how to survive a toxic workplace, how to survive a toxic boss. The number one DM I get from people is about their boss, and it's usually something pretty painful they're experiencing, asking me, "How do I survive this situation?" And I keep thinking to myself, why is it that we're working around these people? Why aren't we
mm,
shining light on these people? And oh, by the way, these people are all of us in
yes.
some way. And
Yes.
so the story about the book, the genesis behind The Devil Emails at Midnight, is that a few years ago, my mother's home was flooded and destroyed, and thankfully
Mm,
it's been rebuilt and she's in a great home, her home now. And it was a cold New England day where the pipe burst in the attic. The hole was
mm,
only this big. It goes through the house. Anyone who's been through a home that has been ravaged by fire or water, it's traumatic. And so I'm in
yeah.
this soaked home in my childhood bedroom trying to save things, dolls, spelling bee certificates from elementary school. I was the proud 5th grade editor in chief of the Woodland Elementary School, and these were, like, all these things you hold on to. Talk about memory.
Yes.
And then I find a notebook, because if you see me today, if you ever meet me, I always have a notebook in my bag. I love a good notebook. And I found a notebook from my 20s in my childhood bedroom, and I'd written down names, nicknamed bad bosses that I had, different
Mm.
restrictions and things they had said or done to me, like, I had details.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. And I thought to myself, "This is like a mean girl burn book moment." Like, what if
Yes.
I am in someone's notebook? So that was the
Mm,
interesting reflection I had.
mm,
It's very easy for me to nickname these bad bosses as I do in The Devil Emails at Midnight. I have the Napper and the Chopper and Medusa and the
mm,
Sheriff, and I nickname them because it's fun. It
yeah.
creates emotional distance, but it's also teaches us, like, it's very interesting to name someone a Disney villain or a Marvel character, and how often are we willing to say that we might be doing something in the workplace that is stopping our teams and our peers from doing their best work? Are we willing to
Yes.
admit that? And that was the flip I took on the book, because
Mhm.
it would also have been easy to write the other, right?
Yeah, for
Easier
sure.
to be like, here are the ways in which you should manage a bad boss.
Mm.
And I'm like, I'm tired of that narrative. I mean,
Mm.
I'll talk about it, and I think it's important to manage your boss. It's another conversation.
Sure.
But why is that the prevailing conversation in the marketplace? Why aren't we doing something about bad bosses and realizing these bad bosses are all of us?
Yes. Yeah.
Mostly.
Yes. Well, I it's brilliant and it's so emotionally intelligent because
Yeah.
frankly, one of the things that we always do is deflect and project, right? Versus internalize and like see something for what it is outside ourselves and then look at the shadow within. And that's really what you're doing, I think, at least from what I'm hearing. I
That's
just
what I
think it's so brilliant because it's an invitation. It's an invitation to, in a safe space while you're reading this book, look at look at your blind spots, And I totally agree. Even if I'm a good boss for the most part. I have bad boss moments all the
absolutely.
time, you know? So, like,
Absolutely.
there's no getting around that, and so I love I just love that it's a great take at kind of chipping away at that ego and
Yes.
being like, "Hey,
Yes.
buddy, this is you,
Yeah.
This
And I
is
like what you
you."
said about the bad boss moments. I've been a bad boss and a good
Mhm.
leader and a bad boss and a good leader, and they're
Yeah,
moments. It's impossible for anyone, I think, to be a good leader or a great leader for all of their career.
oh
And
my
to have
god,
the
yeah.
humility and the courage to say, yeah, I've done that, or I've been that, or I'm doing that now, and I have to course correct. By the way, if you worked for me years ago, I'm micromanaging Mita. Like I'm a micromanager, right? So we all have these behaviors, and
Yeah,
are we self-aware enough that, you know, I talk about 13 bosses in the book. I'm one of them. There's more than 13 behaviors.
sure.
Likely, we're not exhibiting all 13, but it's understanding ourselves to say there's probably 2 to 3 we gravitate towards.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so when the pressure is rising, that's when the bad boss behavior is gonna come out. So
yeah,
can we sort of stop the pendulum from swinging as we see it?
yeah. Yeah, I think that's so brilliant. I think that's so brilliant. And I just like I said, it's an invitation. I think it's a
Yes.
call
I love that.
to leaders to be again, you're creating a safe space. Invite them to look at these
Yes.
areas that are just, that could be changed. And I'm thinking it's funny. I always talk about how to be a truly good leader. You have to have a bit of masochism, like a masochistic streak in you because it's painful to be a good leader. It
Yeah,
takes a lot
it
of
is.
work. There's a way that I agonize over how I work with my teams and support them that I think that's just part of the process. And I to this day have memories, I'm sure you do too, of things that I did that I'm like, "Oh
Yep.
god, I just
Yeah. We
still
all do.
wanna call that person and apologize again for how I
How
handled
about the
that."
first time I managed someone? Yep, that was it.
Oh my god. Yeah,
First
right?
time I
It's just
managed someone.
like, oh my god, so
Right.
many cringy moments that I look back on now. And all of that to say, we're all out here learning. That's literally what we're doing in the
Always learning.
workplace.
Yes.
No one knows what they're doing. Everybody is learning. And that is why even, reimagine inclusion is so important, your first book, because
Oh, thank you.
it's always an invitation to reimagine, to think differently, to open your eyes to what could be happening around you and how you might be able to shift your own behaviors, which I think is fabulous. So I'm just a fan. I'm
Oh,
can't wait
thank you
to
so
read.
much. I love that you bring up the always learning piece. We need more humility in our workplaces, and unfortunately, we didn't design the workplace for that. When
Yeah.
I think about the corporate America dream I chased, it was the glass corner office with the city view, a bathroom, a couch,
Mhm.
hopefully a fridge, and I
Yeah.
get to look out and see my entire team and all the people who report into me. And with that came this idea that if I am at the top of this pyramid, then I know all the answers.
Yeah.
I know how to lead. I am invincible. And many of the leaders I worked for in my career didn't show a lot of humility. And then many of the ones later on did. But I think that's the new paradigm. I mean, there's no such thing as experts anymore. We all
Mm-mm.
just have some level of expertise we're working on.
Yeah.
The world's changing too quickly, but are you vulnerable enough to say, "I made mistakes. I need
Mm.
help.
Mhm.
Here's what I'm working on." And I hope more leaders can do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, strange little backstory on me. I At one point, I studied theology in college and was
Oh,
going to be a pastor, and then deconstructed and am no longer religious today. But that shift, that was a huge existential shift for me. And I still, though, had that, I'm going to use the word pastoral desire to help do something transformative within our communities. And to me, the workplace is the space where we have our greatest opportunity to grow because we're forced to work together and to figure things out. And so the work that you and I are doing, coming at it from different angles, to me is so important because as you're talking about humility, it's how are we becoming better people because of the environments that we're working in and collaborating with one another in? And that humility is such a huge part to me of learning how to be constantly learning
mm,
and how to be propagating
yes.
that. And so to me, there is, and this is, I'm getting a little woo woo and off the rails, but it's spiritual work to me to do the kind of thing that we're doing because it really is about not just our systems and processes, but how do we tap into the human spirit and shift the hearts and minds of people to be then more inclusive, to be
Mm.
then more loving and caring. And you can't do that without humility, and you certainly can't lead without that. So, anyways, that's just what's on my mind as I think about the work that you're doing. To me, it's really deep work.
Oh,
Uh,
I love that. Thank you so
yeah.
much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure. Well, listen, I've loved this conversation. I'm so excited for the book to come out. I know you can pre-order now. I think by the time this episode airs, will be a week out. So folks can
Wow.
pre-order and then it comes out on September 30th, which is so exciting. And I love to end every episode with some rapid fire questions. Sometimes
Well,
they don't end up being rapid fire, but we'll
buckle
do
up. All right.
our okay, so fill in the blank. Growth is
Uncomfortable.
Mm. What was the very first thing you realized you were good at as a kid?
Writing.
Love it. What was your very first job?
I was a assistant wedding photographer and wasn't very good at it.
That's great. Now, were you not very good at it because the pictures didn't come out good or because your assisting just wasn't great?
I had never been into a church. I was born and raised a Hindu, and I
Yeah.
was so fascinated by churches. I'd never been to a Christian wedding. I was too busy watching the bride and groom, and I was, like, dropping tripods. So not
Oh my
I was
god,
like,
that's
I was
amazing.
obsessed with weddings. I was like, "These are
I
so
love that.
beautiful." Yeah,
Oh, that's so great. That is really great.
my poor boss.
Um, who was the best boss you ever had?
Oh, one of the best bosses I ever had, his name was Andre Bardot, and I can't find him. I don't know where he is in the world. Like, I've tried to find him
Oh my
online.
god.
He was one of my bosses in my beauty days. He taught me so much about what good leadership looks like, all the things about
Wow.
being in service of each other, sharing the spotlight, pushing people, presenting, sharing credit. How do you tell a story? I mean, so many things that I'm really
Wow.
grateful for. Yeah, and I've
Wow.
tried it over the years because one of the things I encourage everyone to do, and I love this, if you have a good leader, a good teacher, anyone in your life who's made an impact, send them a note today. It's not too late.
Yes.
And I was trying to do that and I couldn't find him.
Oh my
I
god.
will someday. I will someday.
That, like, I wanna go on a hunt with you, for you, like, that fully agree with reaching out to folks and telling them and all of that,
And
so, yes, now I this is gonna be burned in my brain, that you haven't found him yet. If anybody's listening and knows where he's at,
I
please.
found him on LinkedIn. He just not everyone's on LinkedIn responding to
Yeah.
messages. So you
No,
know what?
they're
You
not.
reminded me. It's been a few years. I'm gonna try again.
I
You
love that.
inspired me. Okay.
What is something you're trying to learn right now?
To be a more patient parent.
Mm, I'm sure you're not alone.
Hardest job I have is raising kind and inclusive human beings, and I know every generation of parents probably said the same thing, is really difficult, I feel like, for a lot of reasons
Oh,
to be
yeah.
raising children right now, so,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I'm child free by choice, and I don't envy the position y'all are in. It is so difficult.
I am open to all unsoliciting parenting advice, you can find me,
Oh
DM me.
gosh, well, listen, I'm a pretty good aunt, and I work hard at it. I take my role
Yeah,
seriously.
of
And
course.
by aunt, I mean my sister is also child free by choice. So auntie to all my friends' kids. But what's something you're trying to unlearn?
Not to quit.
Mm.
There's so much heaviness around this idea of quitting. It's no, you're redirecting, you're pivoting, you're closing one door to open another. Part of
Yeah.
that's being raised as the child of immigrant parents who were in survival mode a lot for their
Mm,
lives. And so this idea that you don't quit jobs or a paycheck or you don't quit
mm.
people spaces and places. And I'm saying it's okay to do that.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And yeah, I think that's so brilliant. And I think honestly, the world, talk about the world being a better place if more people would quit, would free themselves. To me, that's it's freeing
Yeah.
themselves
Yeah.
to do something else. Yeah. Name a book or movie that changed your life.
Changed my life. There's so many. I'm gonna name my friend Maura wrote a few years ago the book The Anxious Achiever, and I think it was the year
Mm,
before my first book came out. And I read her book and I was haunted by this question, is it and it was for myself. I was just thinking about my this question for myself that I came up with. Is it anxiety or ambition that's driven me my entire career?
mm,
Anxiety or ambition?
yeah. I love that question. That's good. When growth feels good, how do you celebrate?
Drive to McDonald's and get a soft serve ice cream. I won't be McDonald's shamed. I love McDonald's.
Oh my God. Wait, you
Treat.
get their soft serve. Do you get caramel,
No,
chocolate? What do you
no,
just
no, just a soft serve on a cone, and I know it's not great, but I can drive and eat it.
I love that.
I
First of
won't be
all,
McDonald's shamed. Then
you
maybe
won't
chicken
be
nuggets,
McDonald's chicken.
maybe a fish o filet. Yeah,
Oh my
love
gosh, I love
McDonald's.
a fish fillet
It's
from
so underrated. My friend
it's
Trey, who's
so
the cheap people
underrated.
officer of cheap, we have this conversation. It's underrated, people. Go
I
check it out
couldn't
and, like
agree more. It's so good. That something about that tartar sauce with the pickles, just like
yeah,
it works.
yes.
It's just delicious. And I actually now you're saying soft serve. I forgot I used to get their caramel sundae. So
Oh, that's
I
good too.
mean,
I mean, other people, but I just like it on a cone, and it's like these small treats and delights, and
love it.
sometimes I go by myself or make my husband drive me, but no kids because 'cause I'm not sharing.
I love it. That's fabulous. This is I think this is my best yeah, my favorite answer to this question of in the
Ah,
history of the podcast. Love it.
wow.
I
I'll
was
take
I well, first of all, most people don't celebrate enough. That's usually how they answer. But McDonald's, like, I love it. I think
love
I'm
it.
loving it.
I love it.
No,
Thank
yeah.
you. I'm loving it. McDonald's can
Uh,
sponsor your podcast.
exactly. They
Congrats.
sure
Here we go,
can.
McDonald's.
They
Come
sure
listen.
can. And send me to some gift cards for soft
Yes.
serve.
Yes.
Let's see. When growth feels hard, how do you take care of yourself?
I take a nap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
just to shut down and refresh.
Reset.
Yeah,
Yeah, love
absolutely.
it. What would your 8-year-old self say about the life you're living now?
Oh gosh. I was talking about this earlier with someone. It's the famous quote from Ava DuVernay, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Mm,
My ancestors'
yeah,
wildest dreams. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
so beautiful. And last question, when you grow all the way up and you leave this life, what is it that you hope to congratulate yourself on?
Hmm. People will remember not what you said or not what you did, it's how you made people feel. It's the famous Dr. Maya Angelou quote. That's what I'm trying to aspire to do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, you're doing it.
Oh,
Absolutely. No doubt. And I'm so grateful that you joined me today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I cannot wait to read the new book.
thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.